For the last hour then, before we just move on to the next bit, so we've obviously been concentrating a lot on who's the customer, why do they need us? And I've just been having an interesting conversation there about how hard it is to get in to even have the conversation with the, with your target customer. They say they're not interested, they don't want to hear from you. The mantra is that marketing has nothing to sell. So if you go into some of those early stage conversations with at the back of your mind that you've got something to sell and you'd like to find out how you can sell it more easily, you're doing a salesman's job. And that's always going to be harder until you've sort of done all the warm-up and everything else. I really encourage you to think about having a marketing hat that you almost put on before you go into a meeting and to say, right, today I'm a marketeer. I have nothing to sell. Because actually, we don't have sales targets in marketing. We might have revenue targets that we share with sales, but we're not individually commissioned on sales targets or anything like that. So we have nothing to sell. We're actually quite a safe bet for a customer. And so when we were doing customer feedback, I always got the marketing team to go in and do the customer feedback or, kind of get some sort of voice of the customer type, would you recommend us exercises, because we had nothing to sell. So that it was quite a comfortable conversation, and the customer felt they could be quite open with us. They knew we weren't going to try and, pinpoint on an issue and then try and swivel our sales message around behind it. So, when you're a business owner and you're doing everything from product and marketing and sales and technical and HR, you do have to wear many hats. So just something as simple as thinking, right, when I go to have this conversation or I pick up the phone, am I a marketing person or am I a salesperson today? And just differentiate that. And if you're marketing, you've got nothing to sell. Don't try to sell. Okay? So for your problem statements, did anybody manage to come up with one for their fictitious case study? Oh, was that a resounding no then? Have we got one for the swimming pool? I thought it was my favourite one, yeah. So, let's just get the problem statement up. So what is the problem that you have? And what's the job to be done by not having a social feature in their garden? What are they missing? Okay, so someone may not be a pool because they might, a bit like the milkshake or a banana, they might choose to have a barbecue or a disco or a bandstand. There's lots of things that could have to things. So you're trying to get to there's a problem with customers having nowhere where they can socialize in their gardens in the summer. Okay, it's a problem. So that'll be a short-lived one then. Yeah, okay, because it could be heated, all right. There's a problem with and what does that mean? What's the pain that causes? Social status. What do you mean by social status? Okay. Which means that. So does it mean that they see their friends less? Or where do they go for their social life instead? Okay, there's a couple of things going on there. So I'm going to keep asking the why question, because this is where why becomes really important. So, but why do they need to keep the kids, sort of occupied and have that social? And so they need children to occupy because they're having meetings at home. Okay, so what's causing more meetings at home? Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So customers don't have a social space in their garden, which means that they aren't able to maintain. I'm going to say networks, but you said on friendship groups. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so you might want to take that back up. So you've talked about first part of the segmentation, somebody who's actually moved into the area. So, yeah, so you've actually got quite a nice niche coming out there. So it's new people into an area who have no friendship circle yet, and are very difficult in today's working environment to be able to actually get out and meet people. They don't have, the communities are all, kind of quite dispersed now, especially in those more affluent areas. So they need a way of actually engaging with and making new friends. And you're starting to get into a bit more of a story. You can start to see who, Sally, who's moved into the area, she's got 3 kids at the local school, but she knows nobody. And actually, how does she start to meet people? This becomes a social space that they can have parties in, that they can have, as you say, lunches. I think it was the meetings that I was thrown by. I'd never have meetings like that, sadly. Okay, to maintain network groups and enhance friendships. Okay, so what do you do? So remember, you've said the need of this customer group, and you may have multiple ones, but this customer group that we're talking about are needing to make friends and have a way of making sure they regularly meet up. So what do you do to help that problem? Yeah. What we do is, anybody else in that group? Just to help me with this one. So the problem that the customer has is that they've not got enough networking and friendship groups, and you provide something, i.e. swimming pools, which does what? It creates an environment. So suddenly you're not selling swimming pools, you're selling a social environment. Yeah. Which means that what? You've got your social environment in your own home. Which means, yes, exactly. So which means what? Anybody help them here? Yeah, it's your, yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, this is not for the marketing communication. It's so you understand what need you're addressing. But something like, you can have a social life fully within your own control. You can actually organize when people come to your swimming pool, when they decide, to have a party when they don't. But the point I'm trying to get to is that the need you've identified is one around kind of loneliness and perhaps not knowing how to make new friends in a new area. That's who you are targeting for that piece of marketing. So you're not talking about keeping fit. You're not talking about, grandchildren coming round to play. You're not talking about status and show off to the neighbours or anything like that. If you go through this exercise, you should be able to go, actually, the people we want, we're going to market really tightly to new arrivals in the town or in the community. And then there's tools and techniques by which you can reach them. You can do a joint marketing campaign with the local newsletters when there's somebody who newly arrives in the village or whatever. You don't have to do a massive advertising campaign to everybody that lives within a 50-mile radius. Does anybody want to have a go at this for their own business, for one of your own businesses? See how you might apply it to yours. Would that be helpful? Anybody up for? We'll do it all together. Yeah? Good. Come on then. Oh, lovely. So we have a persona here. Lovely. Cool. Blockchain. Oh my God. That's like the bane of my life at the moment. Anyway. So tell us about your business. What does it do? Nice. Okay. I like it. Okay. Oh, so it's a bit like the swimming pool, really. So it's so once you've got your swimming pool, then you need some art to put around the house. So in this new house that you've just got. So there's a problem with, what's the problem? Is that anybody? Any thoughts about what the problem statement for a company that connects basically buyers with art galleries? There's a problem, yeah. So yeah, I like that one, yeah, because I think we can come back to that, because I think not having access to art, yeah, yep. Sorry, what were you going to say behind? And what problem statement is there? What's the problem if you don't have dull home? There's a problem with too many dull homes in Britain. Okay. Okay. For whom? For guests. Okay. All right. There's a couple of statements. So there's a problem with, I'm going to take this to the nth degree, but because housing is being sort of like rolled out, it's all manufactured, and there's such a lot of housing now that it's just like shoebox style. We're moving to what's the word I'm trying to look for? Very generic, exactly. Yeah. There's a problem with housing becoming very bland and generic. Ooh. Okay, so that's one problem statement. So that's one group. And then that you mentioned, sorry, just let me take the second one. It was the problem with people not having access to galleries, not being able to find art. Because or feeling comfortable to go, okay? Well, there is some quite affordable art around, so, but maybe it's about the problems actually that people aren't going to look for it because they're thinking, feeling comfortable with going to a gallery. Okay, and then, sorry, yeah, what's the problem Do you think? Yeah, it can be. Yeah. Trying to get to the problem statement. Yeah. Yeah. If you could see lots and lots, if you could spend all day going around all the art galleries in Britain, you'd find art, I'm sure, that you'd like. But who has time? B, it's got this perception of being very high end and exclusive. So that's one thing, is how do we get the common man comfortable with buying art? And then the other one is, how do we get away from this sort of bland magnolia or whatever colours in this year, sort of houses that are being developed. Because there is a housing shortage, we're getting these developers who are just rolling out houses that all look exactly the same, inside and out. So how do we create more of a bit more personalisation, feel less like we're living in a standard. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's a problem with two. So you've got two customer groups now. You've got probably quite sort of high end at one level, but how do they personalize this and make this home really, really something special? And then how do you get people who may not consider art feel comfortable that this is something that's for them as well? Which means that, and you can drink it all down, that people are not buying art. Artists are suffering because they're not able to sell their art because it's exclusive. People are, going to home bargains for their art and not actually, feeling it's anything that engages them emotionally. So I think you could take that. So what you do is provide a platform which connects artists with buyers of all types, opening up effectively the whole of the art community to everybody. All of it. They're all different, and that's why you have if you do those questions with potential customers, you'll drill in and you'll either discount people who, if it's affordability, they're maybe not your market for you, and you just actually know we can't do everything, so we'll just focus on this group over here. Or you might say, well, actually, we've got three key groups. We've got one is an issue around affordability, one is an issue around perception, and one is an issue around personalization, and our marketing messages will speak to each of those very differently. Yeah, and your social media, everything has to be not about what you're pushing, but what that customer is going to respond to. So one, you'll talk about lots of price, and it's never been a better time so easy now to buy art, and there's really affordable art out there. If you know where to look, come to us. We've done the looking. What's their problem? What's their problem? Not what's our problem, but what's their problem? But do they have a problem that they haven't got any art? But if they haven't identified that they need it in the first place, then that's not a problem. It's not a problem. The customer hasn't got a problem. I think it is about always putting yourself in the customer's shoes and thinking, and not being afraid to go, actually, there's a whole load of people I'm just not going to ever reach. They're not my target market. The worst thing you can do as a small business, as I said right up front, is to say that everybody's your customer. Because they're not, and they won't be. And do yourself a favor and just make it a little bit easier. Get focused, get really, tight on who it is this year. And what you might find is you'll go after this group, and then it starts to permeate and word of mouth. Oh, it's great. This is a great platform. You get all sorts of weird and wacky artists. So somebody who's actually, my husband collects art. And he would love something like that because he hasn't got time to go around everywhere around the country and all the different exhibitions and things. And he would love to kind of have a play, but he's not. I can tell you now, he hasn't got a lot of money. But but he has got, an interest in art. And he would love to find these quirky artists that are hidden away, that have no other means to get out there, Okay. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think that's tied up with this. it's almost, well, feeling comfortable, but we also maybe they want art, but they haven't got time. And there's no art galleries where I live, really. You know, it's fine if you go to Cornwall or Northumbria or something, but there's not that many around where we are. So once you've been to one or two, you've sort of done it. So where else do you go? You know, and you're right, I haven't got time to go around the country. Yeah. 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 Definitely. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Why does the customer need it enhanced? I'm not saying that's wrong. You're right. But if you still come back to the why question, so why are they going to pay more for this enhancement, or why? Yeah. Give me an example of what you mean. Is it from your own business? Okay. Sort of see where you're going with it. I think it's working out what problem you can help solve with your piece of technology or your platform, because there will be. You're right. There is a problem that's there, and this is one way to solve it. It's not going to be the only way, but there are other routes. But it's in your mind as much as anything else, just to train yourself to always be thinking, my customer's got an issue or has got a need something. Maybe it's not a problem. You're right. It's not always a problem, but they do have a need. My customer is going to need this new bit of functionality because in 2 years' time, the old version is going to be, mothballed and we're not going to have it anymore. Or, this is much more compatible with new smart tellies that are coming out, or whatever the issue is. So it may, sometimes as an entrepreneur, you're looking ahead for what the problem might be in a year's time or 2 years' time, not necessarily what it is today. Because there's a problem and there is a solution there, but that solution is not going to be fit for purpose in 2 years' time. It's a need a problem. Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, maybe you swap it out, because it's not always a problem as in something's bad. It could be an emotional need. Um, you know, this is really just a way of the four sentences to kind of get people's minds thinking. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a need for, instead of a problem with, you could say there's a need for. So in our example that I talked about earlier, there's a need for a much faster way of signing up for a car loan, because at the moment the process just doesn't work. Customers want to get on there. I've got an offer to buy this car today. I want to drive out the door with it. And you can't tell me I'm going to wait 3 days now to approve my loan. It's a problem, it's a need, yeah. So there's different ways you could put that question. You could say there's a need for, which means that, what we do is, which means that. But you're right, yeah, it won't always be something very, very negative. Right, okay. So we're going to move rapidly on. Are we comfortable with why now? Because I've banged on about it quite a lot, really. So if you go back to the slide we had before, it was who and why, and then what and how. And I think I said I'm not going to spend a lot of time on how, because you're experts in your business, not me, so I can't advise you whether you'd be better off doing a social media campaign or a PR, an event or whatever. That's something that hopefully you'll have other people can support you with, but we couldn't cover that for everybody today. We've talked about the buyer persona. You've got the questions. I really encourage you to take that away and start trying to use that for your own customers. And don't be afraid, even if you're B2B and you're going into a big corporate and selling to an IT manager, don't be afraid to have questions like, what keeps you awake at night? How are you measured? What's the biggest challenge you're facing today? What makes you anxious? Because these are humans, God bless them, at the end of the day. And actually, we need to be able to tap into that. So you will get these slides, everybody, so don't worry about, taking pictures if it mightn't be very clear in a photo. We've done that one, so. I put this one up because, interestingly, sometimes the same need can lead you to a completely different audience group. So the picture on the left, if you're as old as I am, you remember when Lucozade was a drink that was taken. Do you remember the sort of the orangey cellophane kind of wrapping paper? And you took it to people in hospital. I mean, that's what you did. It was a hospital drink. It was a gift with a bunch of grapes, Look, it's good for invalids, and it was the market leader for, energy drinks, but for people who were ill. And I can imagine that somebody in the marketing department said, oh, well, we've sort of we're at market saturation now. Everybody that's ever going to need, drinks when they're ill, they already buy Lucozade, so we haven't got anywhere else to go. What are we going to do? And they went through this exercise and said, there's a problem with, or there's a need for. Who else needs to have energy? He needs a quick replenishment of energy, doesn't have time to eat or can't eat. Who are those people? And you can imagine they went through that exercise and went, okay, there's a problem with people who need energy that they haven't got time that they can fulfill a full meal or something, but they need energy very, very quickly. Who else needs that? Went, oh, do you know what? How about athletes and people doing sport? Because it's exactly the same product. So the product hasn't changed at all. The messaging has, because it's simply a different audience group. So in an ideal world, this is what will happen to all of you. And you'll start off with your product, selling it to one area, and you'll realize that there's a group over here who could do with a product in exactly the same way. You haven't got to do anything with it. Same product, just market it differently to a different audience group. I always love that story because, the bottle with the cellophane on it. I did try to find a picture of it, but can't find them anymore. Right, okay. So we've talked about customers, and we've talked about why they buy from you. And I know quite a few of you are going, well, how do I reach them? How am I going to get them to actually listen to me? How do I get them to buy? And obviously, as marketeers, we're not trying to get them to buy, but at least buy into having a conversation with me. So I thought I'd just introduce this little concept, and this is really fun to do with your teams or your family or anything, because the way we make decisions really affects how you need to communicate with your potential customers. I think you've all got one of these, haven't you? Yeah. So we either make decisions based on facts, data, evidence, or we're very emotional, and it's a gut feel. That's just the way it is. And you'll know yourself where you probably sit in that continuum, whether you're the sort of person who goes, I just want it, I'm just buying it, or whether you're kind of, well, hang on, let me go and do a bit of witch research and find out if there's a better deal somewhere else, or see what other people say about it and all that good stuff. You make decisions slowly or fast. And you can be very analytical, and want to see, that. But once you get a bit of evidence, then you quickly make a decision. I used to work with somebody, God help him, he just would never make a decision about anything, and it would just drive us all bananas, and no matter how much evidence you gave him, no matter how many heartwarming stories about how people were using the software, whatever, he was just, but what if? And he was always just a naturally slow decision maker. And we're going to do this in a minute, actually, on your tables, because it's quite fun to plot where you all sit, because how you deal with people in each of those squares needs to be very different. And there's a great example. We're obviously in Sport Relief Week at the moment, and BBC Children Need, all those big sort of charity events that have a lot going on. They do it brilliantly because they've got this down to a T. How do you think they make sure they reach somebody who's factual and sort of, fairly, just data-driven, but makes decisions quickly? Yeah, with facts. Think of the techniques. Think of the big evening, the 7 o'clock, isn't it, usually on the Friday night? They do marketing all the way through that, what do they call it? Not telethon, but the big show that they do. And they will have different things, different marketing techniques all the way through the evening that will appeal to each of these groups. Amount raised, exactly, yeah. Particularly the ticker tape along the bottom, because that's there, it's the number, yeah, actually, I know how much you've raised, I know what the gap is, and there's the number, it's there. I don't have to think about going looking up the number. So that's why you quite often see the ticker tape will run along the bottom with either the latest total, certainly the number. The number's always there on screen, so once you're ready to make a decision, quick and easy, really, really easy. The emotional decision makers, I'm in that camp, that's the stories that you hear, the stories where somebody's overcome a real burden, overcome a real disadvantage, and children in need or Sport Relief has helped them, and look how, so they can be very heartwarming, but then they can also be very, very sad, and actually, get really, really pull on the emotions, and I just need to make this world better for that person. So you'll get the fast decision makers like me. You'll just go, oh, that's terrible. Quick, where's my credit card? You get the people who just need time, but that's why they're repeated through the evening. So you'll just see that they'll mix them up with happy ones that make you feel good, and then ones that really tug on the heartstrings, And they're absolutely blatantly playing to the audience there and just saying, okay, then I will go, well, where do I find the number? It's on the screen, dummy. It's been there all night. Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't see it. And then the factual and the slow, they are kind of people where, you just to have drip feeding across the evening in terms of perhaps what your money's gone to do, What last year we raised X million pounds, here's how it was split out across, the different charities, or here's how, the money that you raise, it'll buy so many goats in Africa, or, and so those are little bits of evidence. Again, probably linked more to a story and a little bit more where you can build it up over the evening. But it's really interesting that, they have all these techniques. They're grounded in psychology. We all do it differently. But watch out if you're watching Sport Relief evening this Friday night. You'll see the things that will work for somebody who makes a decision fast but is purely driven by stories and emotions. The people who are slow and take a bit of a burn to get there, then you'll have the factual. Just watch out for the data and the kind of facts and figures that they get thrown out as well, to kind of appeal to people who don't really want to hear another tearjerker. Just, tell me where it goes and what's it. Pardon? Fast is how quickly you make a decision. So you'll be a real snap decision maker. Yeah, let's just do it, and it's 100 quid. A slow decision maker might say, yeah, I want to donate, but I need to just go and work out how much I've got left in my bank balance, and maybe I'll do it tomorrow when I get that all sorted through. The factual person is driven by evidence and data and proof points and, things like that, hard facts. And the emotional person just appeals to the stories about great and not so great. So when you're talking to customers, you need to think about where they sit on here, because even if they're buying the most boring compliance product in the world, they're going to be sitting in this continuum somewhere. And you'll get, as you get to know them, especially if you're spending time with customers in a B2B environment, you will get to know where they sit on that continuum. And it really helps if you can then appeal to the right part of their brain, as it were. So have a go on your tables, just amongst each other, plot where you sit, where you think, and as a company, we'll see whether we've got too many of those. Because if you have everybody emotional and fast, it's a disaster zone. You need a few of those top left to be going, hang on a minute, can we just look at the numbers here and make sure that we're able to do this, But, just see where you think. And you can do this with if you've got a team or you've got a family that you want to test it on. Okay, just for the last couple of minutes then, feel free if you need to jump out. I know it's getting to home time. That was just a bit of fun, really, but I hope you're starting to see we're sort of building up layers here. We started off at the start of the evening with segments that were based on age and gender and what sector they were in and maybe what role they had. And then we started to go to needs and what actually were the needs that they personally connected with and what problems or needs they had. And this almost takes it to the next level, which is, okay, having done all that, oh God, now I've still got to think about how I communicate with them, because this, I was saying, Tricia and I think, are very similar. We kind of go, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. Don't even ask what price it is. We just, yeah, can we just have it? And we'll worry about the price and worry about if we can afford it later. Whereas my husband is right up there, top left. I don't know if that means that's why we get on well, or just, there's a problem waiting to happen. But, he's the ones going, hang on a minute, well, how much and how are we going to pay for that? And what if this? And da-da-da-da-da. So, and actually, in a team in your business, when you do this, if you have a team of people or supporters, your mentors, think about having a good balance. Because if we're all like me down here, we'd be in chaos, just big decisions getting made left, right, and center. Oh yes, we'd be a disaster. We'd be a complete disaster. You do need people to go, well, hang on a minute here. Just let's have a look at the evidence or whatever. So it's a little bit fun with psychology there. I'm going to rattle through the next bit, because actually this starts to, you're more expert than this than me, really, because it's about your business. But when you start thinking about what am I going to say to my customers, that's what the what is. What am I going to say? What is my message? It must resonate with the customer's needs, not with your product. So we started off at the start of the day talking about your product and what it does. That should hopefully have gone out the window by now. By now you're thinking, what does this customer need? This customer needs to prove that they've got, status. This customer needs a social life because they've just, moved in. This customer needs, needs somebody to do their DIY for them, because actually there's nobody in the house that can. And your communications have got to be appropriate to their persona type. So if they are a fast decision maker, I was just saying, it used to drive me mad. There was a guy I worked with, and his emails would be like, dun, 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 bullet point, can you do it by Tuesday? And I'd be going, well, have you had a nice weekend? And I hope you're okay, and how's the family? And da-da-da-da. So, don't hack people off by using the wrong communication style, especially when it's electronic. You can get away with a lot more if you're on an exhibition stand or something and having a conversation. But if it's if all they're going to see is an email saying, can I have a meeting? You better know what sort of style that they'd respond to. And test everything. You don't have to have a big marketing agency or anything, but you can test different variations. Try 2 different email campaigns. Have 2 different, messages on your Facebook page and see which one seems, put one for 1 week and then swap it if you're using Facebook or social media. If you're using flyers, do half as many in one color and the other half in a different color with a slightly different tone, and see which one works best. Because actually, people do respond, and there's a lot of psychology when you get to this level of what makes someone respond. And then finally, evolve to a dialogue. Get feedback. If somebody has sort of shown a bit of interest but then drops off, find out why. Why have they? We were talking earlier about on your retail site. You've got a great advantage there, and you can see what customers are doing. Well, why did they stop at that point? Why did they, abandon their basket, or why did they, come in through a different route? And you can start doing a lot of analytics that will help you there. And if you keep building that back into that product, and particularly for websites, if you're selling directly to customers, evolving that dialogue so that you're taking note of that when you build out the website is really important. Yep. Okay. So final one, work together on your tables to see if you can get a really strong message that will appeal to one of those persona. We'll say one because we haven't got a lot of time now, but one of your persona types on your table. So I think the swimming pool one was pretty good. We've got that, so we know it's people who've moved into the area. We know that it's people who kind of want a social, engage a new social group, perhaps. So what might be a really strong message that you would put out to them? We will make what, or we will transform your life by what? Something just really kind of compelling. Okay? The point of this exercise really is not to turn you all into marketing, creatives. You will, when you get to this stage, you're going to have people who can help you with this. They do it for a living. But the point is just to try and illustrate how you go from a flow of a customer segment, customer needs, a style of communication, and then actually what your message needs to be. So if your audience, you were talking over here that you talked about people having this DIY store right in the heart of their community. That's because they didn't have time to go to the big B&Q down 10 miles down the road, which is similar to what you were talking about. Then make sure your message talks to that. Don't talk about heritage and quality and where the UK is number one. Actually, what I'll respond to is the fact that you're on my doorstep and that I don't have to, or will deliver it to you, within 24 hours, whatever. So it's that because you're appealing to the convenience piece. So when you are doing your marketing flyers or any kind of communication on your website or anything, just make sure you follow that logic through and you don't end up with something that's beautifully crafted over here by a communications expert, but doesn't seem to speak to actually what you said. You were trying to reach in terms of the customer base and what their need was. Because it's so easy to get that wrong, and actually sit in the middle and go, oh, well, look, why didn't that work? Why did we only get 1% open rates on that email campaign? Messages that customers actually need to hear to help them solve their problem, not what you want to shout about. Because it's great that you're the number one DIY store in Britain. Lovely, I don't care. Honestly, I just want to get my stuff quickly because this shelf is about to fall down and I need somebody to put it up for me. Yeah, and that's, I think, at any level of business, that's probably the biggest mistake we all make, is wanting to tell people about us and how great we are and how great our product is and we're faster and our tech is slicker and it's more compliant, and the customer's kind of going, well, I sort of expect all of that anyway. That's not doing it for me. And try and see if we can get a way to communicate with them that will make them feel a little bit more engaged and emotional. I don't mean emotional that they're going to cry when they open your email and be so happy, but you've got to try and get away from targeting their heads and getting facts and get into the gut where they start to think, oh, I like that. And I'll tell you a story about my very, very favorite piece of marketing. We always go to Cornwall on holiday, and when our kids were little, we'd always rent cottages. So come this time of year, I'd have, it was pre-internet days pretty much anyway, and we'd just get all these brochures coming through of, cottages. And invariably, they were pretty much like a catalogue. I don't know if you remember, but, you'd get, here's a house in Foy, or here's a house here, and 3 bedrooms, and this, and it's got that. And one day, it was a company called Classic Cottages. I've never forgotten. I think they're still going. But they sent this brochure, which was quite thin. Wasn't particularly expensively produced, but it was quite a thin brochure. But it was fab because it told a story, page by page by page, of what was happening to this family in this holiday house. And by the end of reading this entire booklet, it wasn't that I wanted to go to Cornwall. I didn't buy into going to Cornwall. I didn't buy into a particular cottage. I bought into the holiday. I wanted that holiday. I even wanted my in-laws to come with us so we could have Granny in there and we could make apple pies and forget to put the apples in because we were having such a good time on the beach. And it's that, if you can connect and tell a story that will bring what you do to life, you will find it much easier to open the doors. Some of you have talked about it's hard to get through to people. I think sometimes we get very focused on what we do. What we do is this, and we're the best. And actually, what we need to think about is a human at the end of the day trying to listen to all of this. This is your marketing communications wheel. You'll know this. The principles are, it's the same online and offline. They're just different ways of using technology. But if you wouldn't stand on a street corner and shout at somebody, so don't email them, every other 5 minutes with messages, just bombarding them with stuff. Make sure it's properly timed as well. When is the right time for the customer? Test it rigorously. If you do advertising and you're going to put something into a local flyer, or a local magazine, if you're a B2C business, I'd be careful. Firstly, make sure that what you are offering, therefore, is going to apply to pretty much everybody in that geographic location, because if it's not, you're going to be wasting about 90% of the audience that it goes to. But if it's something that is appropriate to everybody who lives, whatever age, whatever need, then test it. If it doesn't work, go back to the seller of the magazine or whatever you've bought and make sure they know that it didn't work, and actually they better do a bit better next time. And try and integrate activities where you can for maximum effect, because just doing one advert this month is not going to have a massive impact for you. But if you can link it so that they go to your website, and when they get on there, they see a case study, which has also been maybe in the press, where you've got a live customer testimonial talking about how they used your product, and then 2 days later, you actually send out a direct mail that drives them again back to the website to see a bit more. Try and plan your marketing into chunks of activity rather than drip feeding, isolated activity that doesn't build up a reach, really, because it is hard to cut through all the noise. You know yourself how much email and social media and everything else you get, so it's very hard to cut through that. So if you are going to invest in marketing, try and bring some of the activities together and have a big bash, big go at it. Any questions around that? Who's actually doing any sort of outbound marketing at the moment? Is there anybody doing anything yet? Yeah. Yeah, please. What have you done? Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. No. And that's a really important point. Yeah, absolutely. That's a really important. Thank you. You've just actually led me on to the next piece, because it's about measuring. Be sure you know what you're actually trying to achieve, because you may not be trying to achieve sales leads. We once did a big campaign quite a long time ago, but the campaign was to change perception of the business. That's what we actually wanted to achieve, because people had got us pigeonholed into something over here, and that wasn't what we were doing anymore. And we wanted existing customers to realize that we could offer so much more. Great quote. You don't need a marketing department to do great marketing. You can do that yourself, but you need to know what you're trying to achieve, and be really clear on what you want this effort. Because even if you're not spending money, you're spending time. So you do want to think about what I actually want to achieve at the end of this quarter or year. I love this quote. The ad campaign was a huge success. Yeah, wow. Actually, well, in whose eyes? and don't be surprised if at some point an investor or a business angel or your CEO kind of comes and goes, what? Because actually, got to be a bit more realistic about what's success. So what are we actually measuring? I'll not go through this, but you thank you for teeing me up for this one. There's different stages of marketing, and you've probably seen marketing. Have you seen marketing funnels where they go, oh yeah, we put in stuff at the top and then somehow it automatically all falls out at the bottom? I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And every single team I've ever had has a marketing tunnel instead. Because it's not about gravity. We have to work bloody hard to get these people, to move through the process. You start out, you feed it, and they just cycle round and round. And some of our leads just would stay there, stuck forever. How could we move them on a little bit more and a little bit more? But you do have 5 main sort of customer stages that marketing can help with. It's awareness and research. If you're just getting going, it's probably a bit ambitious to hope that you're going to spend a little bit of marketing and it's going to get masses of sales for you. Not too bad if you are actually selling a commodity and then people can go on, click buy, put it in their basket and go. But for a lot of businesses, it is actually, well, how do I know if people know about me? And more people know about me this year than last year. So you're looking at sort of typical metrics like the number of social followers or the increase in visitors, the percentage of your target market that do know about you. Go out and ask that question, have a bit of a survey. If you're in the right industry, you might want to get invitations to speak, talk about well-being. That's becoming a big issue. I'm the spokesperson for this. That's all about, it's a marketing activity that will lead to greater awareness. And then you've got, consideration. The customers come on my site and they're browsing around. How do I measure that? Because that might be all you want at the moment, because you're trying to get some feedback to finally, kind of, somebody talked about the prototype, take that prototype to product stage. Evaluation, you're starting to get a bit more clinical here. You know, how many actual leads have you delivered? How many meetings have we had? What was the cost per lead? How many responses from target companies? If you are targeting a very specific sector, you know who the companies are in that sector. Can you set yourself a target of, you want to talk to 20 of them, you know, and how many of those did you get? Then you're into, of course, into purchase. And these are the ones that everybody will tell you about, that these are the ones that matter. Because this is where you put your money in, and it tells you how much did it cost to acquire that customer, how many did marketing really influence. Of the 50 new customers I signed or this month, or the 500 across the quarter, how many came through some touch point with marketing, through the website or at an event, or I met them at a networking piece. How many deals did we get from our target companies? What's our market share? I always have a bit of a battle with financial people over this, because they'll tell you, and you'll read lots and lots of places, these are the only metrics that matter. That's fine, as long as your objective is not to simply get a load of beta testers, you know, for a product, or to actually just get awareness that you even exist. So it goes back to that thing, know what you're trying to achieve before you set up the measurement. And then when you get into usage and the customer's actually using your product, you can start to look at, well, how much are they spending over time with us? How many customers have we retained? And what's the net promoter score? It's something that's used quite a lot to actually look at, would customers recommend you? You know, when you get that text after an interaction with the business, oh, you know, how was our service today on a scale of 0 to 10? How would you recommend us to a friend or family member? That's a net promoter score, and it's a big industry standard that people use. So they're not exhaustive. You will find your own metrics for what's important, but once you know what's important, you'll know what to measure. You know, there's lots of ways. And if you certainly ever get to spend any money and you want to, you know, bring agencies or partners or anyone in to help you, you should be setting them metrics as well, making sure that you get the best possible value out of them. Okay, so in summary, you're here, so you're already doing marketing. So, you know, don't be afraid of it. It's not some great science. It's actually not at all. It's about connecting people, and that's what you've been doing all evening. Know what you're trying to achieve before you spend any money whatsoever, because really, it's you know, it's a highway to nothing. Don't start thinking about how you're going to reach those customers until you understand why they need to even talk to you. And however you get that, whether you're using the questions that we've shared, whether you go out and do your own market research, whether you do tracking on your website, just become advocates of why. You know, that if I leave you with nothing else tonight, that's the big one. Find ways to keep your customers ever present. You know, Betfair have a fantastic big cardboard cutouts of their customer personas in every meeting room. So anytime anybody in Betfair is having a meeting, the customer is in the room. And it's psychologically, the customer is there, and he sits at a chair, and just to remind them always, are they thinking about what a customer might need? Test and get that feedback continuously, and then make marketing everybody's job. It's not just the marketing department. When you're huge and you've got lots and lots of people running your business, it's not just the marketing department's job. Everybody from the receptionist. I mean, it's great here when you come into UK Fast. You walk in the door, the receptionists are really engaged. They're marketing. They're communicating what that brand's about, all the way back up through Trish and up to Lawrence and the team. It's everybody's job, and marketing can help actually facilitate it all. But every time you speak to a person, you're doing marketing. Okay? I think I'm going to leave it there.
Thank you so much, Karen.
All right.
I think that's the hardest work I've done. I think I would like to thank you very much by giving you a round of applause. Thank you.